Welcome back to Into the Omniverse. So, a very quick recap. In part 1, we discussed the superhero revival of the 1960s and how that led to the creation of the Marvel Universe. We talked about the first stories that took place in what would come to be known as Earth 616, the first mention of Marvel's Multiverse, and the Celestial Beings. You can watch that video by clicking the card in the upper right-hand corner. Now, not all comic book reboots are technically reboots. Some of them are just relaunches where books are set back to issue 1, while others may be partial reboots or simple changes in continuity brought on as part of a story, a retcon if you're nasty. The purpose of all these events is the same: simplify continuity and create a good point for new readers to jump in. I'm going to call them all reboots, so complain in the comment section below. Frankly, I could use the engagement numbers. Those of you that watched my 2-part series explaining DC's multiverse will recall that a large portion of those videos was dedicated to the various crisis events DC has implemented, and Marvel has done reboots and relaunch events as well. However, DC started rebooting its comic lines in 1986 with Crisis on Infinite Earths, while Marvel was a decade late to the reboot party with Heroes Reborn in 1996. Ask your doctor if patreon.com/fancygeeks is right for you. You can support the channel at patreon.com/fancygeeks, get a video made on a comic or a character of your choice. Even a single dollar helps. That's patreon.com/fancygeeks. None of this is actually true. Use at your own risk. I will make you a video though. Avoid where prohibited by law. Side effects may include headache, nausea, vomiting, death, dizziness, YouTube buffering, and dysentery. Use only as directed. Marvel, for their part, has kept reboots to a minimum until they didn't. I think this may be a good time to explain the sliding timescale. You see, anything that ever happened in Marvel's continuity happened in the last 10 or 15 years, and this timescale is constantly sliding forward, but it also causes problems. Tony Stark's origin story, for example, took place during the Vietnam War. Now it's Afghanistan. So rebooting all or part of Marvel's comic universe is a great way to clean up lost bits of continuity. DC does the same thing, but it's less relevant to the DC multiverse because they reboot every other 15 minutes. Don't at me. The name Earth 616 was first used in July of 1983 in Rough Justice, a story from Alan Moore and artist Alan Davis for Marvel UK in The Daredevils, though it was later reprinted in the Captain Britain trade paperback, and Alan Davis claims it was previous Captain Britain writer David Thorpe who first coined the term, though Moore claims he came up with it. In any case, this format would stick, and all future Marvel universes would be referred to as Earth Dash and then a number. Moore says he chose the number at random simply to avoid copying DC's Earth 1 and Earth 2, though it's commonly believed that 616 was chosen to honor the year and month of the Fantastic Four's debut in 1961. But that was cover dated November and released in August, months 8 and 9, so I'm not sure that scans. Maybe they began work on it in June. That would be year 61 in the 6th month. David Thorpe, in a 2020 interview, agreed with Davis and said that the number 50 was subtracted from 666 to arrive at 616, though he also notes that Moore was the first one to print the term. The truth is, we may never really know what happened, and it's likely some combination of these stories. From Rough Justice to the first Marvel reboot was about 13 years. After that, Marvel got a taste for the practice, and so we had Ultimate Marvel in 2000, Secret Wars in 2015, All New All Different Marvel again in 2015, don't get me started, Marvel Now in 2016, Marvel Legacy in 2017, and Fresh Start in 2018, which intended to bring Marvel back to basics. And that brings us to the Marvel Universe as told in Jonathan Hickman's Avengers. It's extremely long, so let's stick to the creation of the multiverse, but it starts like this. There was nothing, followed by everything. Swirling, burning specks of creation that circled life-giving suns. And then we raced to the light. It was the spark that started a fire, a legend that grew in the telling. Some believe it began the moment Hyperion was rescued from a dying universe. Others say it was when the Guard were broken on the dead moon. Many more think it was when Ex Nihilo terraformed Mars, turning the red planet green. They are all wrong, as it happened before the light, before the war, and before the fall. It started with two men. It started with an idea. We then cut to Tony Stark waking up Steve Rogers, who seems to be dreaming about the Illuminati, and then they have a conversation. The basic idea is this: if the threats keep escalating, then there's just one simple solution to that problem: the Avengers must get bigger. Now, explaining the whole story would take hours. In fact, Rob has a 9-hour compilation video on this topic, along with Secret Wars, and he did a fantastic job laying out the whole story. I'll link it here if you want to check it out. It's outside the scope of this video, so we'll stick to explaining the multiverse, but suffice it to say, this leads into Secret Wars. To keep it short, a month after Tony decides the Avengers must get bigger, he's proven correct when Ex-Nihilo, Aleph, and Abyss start attacking Earth from the newly terraformed Mars, and the Avengers get their asses handed to them, partially because Abyss is able to manipulate Hulk into fighting Thor by essentially telling him that this guy thinks he's stronger than you, but it's more than that. There seems to be some kind of magic that keeps Hulk loyal. So they send Cap back to Earth as sort of a statement: the best you have couldn't stand against us, and we cannot be stopped. So Cap calls in everyone he can using the Wake the World protocol. This is the idea that started it all. So keep that in your back pocket while I tell you about the Builders. This is kind of a small retcon, but it leaves most of the continuity already established and just exists with it. The Builders were the first race in the cosmos, or that's what Ex-Nihilo says. They believed themselves to be a perfect people. For a time, they worshipped a goddess they called the Mother Maker that they essentially believed was the universe itself, but they moved away from religion as they evolved as a society. They built systems to control and direct the very fabric of space and time. The first of these systems were beings called Alephs and known as gardeners. They searched for and purged species that they believed were unfit for their new universe. So the character Aleph was one of these gardeners, and he raised world after world, deeming them all unfit. However, one day, after literally hundreds of millions of years, he finally found a species that he felt was worthy of preservation and evolution. There he released the garden he carried within him, seeding the planet with all sorts of seeds, no two of which were the same. This kicks off a chaotic evolutionary process that eventually gives birth to Ex-Nihilo and Abyss. So these three continue on their mission to transform the universe, and of course their new target is Earth. They don't want to destroy it though, they've deemed it worthy of evolution, and this, we find out, is really bad for the people living there now. These evolution bombs cause people to be encased in a pod that speeds up their evolution. This happens all over the world, a full-scale global attack. Eventually, Captain Universe shows up, and because the Builders worshipped the universe, two of them, Ex-Nihilo and Abyss, immediately stop. If the universe tells them to stop destroying and transforming, then that's good enough for them. Aleph, on the other hand, isn't buying it. He's created and hard-coded for this, so Captain Universe destroys him. So there's a whole lot more to this story. Seriously, I left out a lot, but that's the basic facts that affect the creation of the Marvel Multiverse, or this incarnation of it. Eventually, this becomes the base that Hickman builds on to take us to the collapse of this multiverse, to Secret Wars, and to all new, all different Marvel. The multiverse collapsed in what was called the Incursions, described as a contraction in the multiverse's timeline. During an incursion, two universes of the multiverse collide, destroying both, and each time this happens, the lifespan of the multiverse gets a little shorter. The Illuminati and the Cabal tried to stop the incursions, but ultimately, the multiverse is doomed. The only sure way to prevent an incursion is for one of the parallel Earths to be destroyed, which causes some ethical issues. Those of you that saw Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness may find this whole premise to be familiar. You might also remember me doing a video on Drake's channel about 4 times that Deadpool actually died. This was number 1, the final incursion. Earth 1610, the ultimate universe, and Earth 616, the last 2 universes left, go boom. And after an all-out battle, this version of the multiverse ends. Secret Wars from 84 and 85, where Spidey got his symbiote costume for the first time, that has a lot in common with Hickman's 2015 Secret Wars. So, in short, a being called the Beyonder becomes fascinated by the superheroes on Earth. The Beyonder chooses a group of heroes and villains to send to a planet in a distant galaxy called Battleworld. It's got alien tech and weapons, and all of the heroes and villains are pitted against one another. The whole planet is made up of pieces of thousands of other worlds, including including one Denver suburb from Earth, which still exists along with the rest of the universe while the events on Battleworld play out. In Hickman's Secret Wars, the planet is made by Doom after he takes the Beyonders' powers in order to save what's left of the multiverse, and the world is made up of bits of the old multiverse. In this version, the Beyonders are destroying the multiverse as part of an experiment. How very Star Trek. Doom, with the help of Molecule Man, kills them and steals their power. There was nothing, followed by everything. Swirling, burning specks of creation that circled life-giving suns. God Doom created the light. Then there was Earth. The firmament cooled, and he raised up the land, this holy land, the world, and upon it he set his kingdoms. So Battleworld has its own history, structure, and laws. It's ruled by God Doom. The police are all Thor. Seriously, there's a Thor Corps. Johnny Storm was apparently punished by forcing him to become the sun, and some also worship him as a deity. There are no stars, but nowhere still exists as Battleworld's moon. No one there remembers the old multiverse. They think they've always lived on Battleworld, except the sheriff, Dr. Strange. That is, until 8 years after the creation of Battleworld, two groups of survivors from the two final universes arrive. So, Mr. Fantastic and the Maker eventually find Doom's source of power, and while Castle Doom is under assault by Maximus, who gathered an army to try and defeat God Emperor Doom, don't know why you need both of those, but you do you, Victor. Mr. Fantastic and God Emperor Doom battle it out, but Molecule Man gets involved and gives Reed Doom's power. Battleworld begins to break down. Reed uses this power to restore the previous multiverse, but the one he creates is forever changed. It's essentially a new multiverse for an all-new, all-different Marvel, where Earth 616 and 1610 are combined. This became the 8th Cosmos, and though many events have happened since, Eternity War, Infinity Conflict, and Civil War II, for example, this is still the current incarnation of Marvel's multiverse. Both versions of Secret Wars are similar. Battleworld, Doom getting ultimate power, heroes pitted against one another, but in the end, they're different stories. The original is a superhero romp with some weird plot points, but some cool moments, while the 2015 version is an epic tale spanning years and multiple series. I've left out so much, but this video is about the multiverse, not just this one story, though to be fair, it's a super important story to the history of the multiverse. As I've said before, the Marvel multiverse is incredibly complicated, but I hope this has given you a decent base explanation. So jump down to the comments section and let me know. What do you think of multiverses and retcons? I really want to know. Click subscribe, ring that bell, share on Twitter, Facebook, and Reddit, rate the video up or down so I know how I did, and thank you to Lauren, Alexandra, Sleepy Hollow, Josh Gallagher, and these nerds on screen. Please be kind to each other. I'm Jay Parks.